Venom.
Venom.
Venom. We're going to be reviewing Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
Venom.
I think in Venom 3, they need to have an Eminem cameo. Come on, how great would that be? Of just... And I do just want to say off the top, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so you do not have to worry about spoilers here. I think I might want to do a post-spoiler talk, maybe in like a couple weeks, because this movie leaves plenty to talk about. And that's all I'll say about that. Okay, so what was the story of this movie to you?
Venom and Eddie Brock are still together, even though Eddie's trying to tell everybody they're not. Sounds like romance drama. But so they're still a duo, a dynamic duo. They're having their own issues. And then kind of out of the blue, a known serial killer,
Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah, Cletus Cassidy. Reaches out to Eddie and wants to kind of do a tell-all, but he's being very cryptic about it, and he only will talk to Eddie. And then from there, chaos ensues.
One thing that I do want to say right off the top, this movie is an improvement from the original 2018 movie. I thought that they handled the characters way better. From the minute that they announced that the director of this was going to be Andy Serkis, I was extremely pumped because I'm a huge admirer of his work and projects he's worked on in the past, especially King Kong. So like I knew when it came to computer graphics like this, when it came to the motion capture work, I knew he was just going to be like the right person to kind of take on a project like this, and I was right.
I feel like that's true. They definitely, I think, took what worked from the first movie and like kept those things, but that you can tell it's definitely got a different tone, much darker in some ways, but still very lighthearted. Like they strike a really good balance. I enjoyed it. I will say I think it was overhyped. Just a little bit, just because I think people were surprised pleasantly, and maybe they took that a little too far. So I went to it with maybe a little too high of hopes.
That is definitely a good point. I think it's important that you know what sort of movie you are going into, right? Like I think that the original film is a good kind of like direction of like where this film is going, and then they just kind of tone it up. They kind of work out the kinks, but it's still in that universe, right? And so you still have times and moments where it's really campy. You have times where the comedy doesn't exactly work the best, where it feels more like a weird science fiction TV show about like two roommates and one of them is like an alien, and then it gets back into all the like, you know, crazy kills and the action and kind of what you came to see. But they do try and work a lot of comedy in there, and there are bits where it does work and there are bits where it does not work.
I think that is a good point that you brought up, that like some of it lands, some of it doesn't, because maybe that's where my disappointment is. People were kind of making me feel like this movie was immaculate, and it's not. It's better than the first one. It's definitely enjoyable. I'm not mad at it at all. I'm just saying there's some YouTubers out there that I kind of want to be like, hey just tone it down a little bit, eh?
We're looking at you, Chris. Let's talk about Carnage, right? The man of the hour. The
meat man. I do not like how he looks.
He is the reason why we're all here at this film, right? Because we are going to finally see Carnage on the big screen. And I think it's good that you're getting two different kind of views and perspective here, because me...
Like, woo! And I'm like, ew!
Whenever Cletus becomes Carnage for the very first time, the introduction of Carnage in this film, it immediately took me back to all the comic books, the old games I used to play, the old Spider-Man cartoons with Carnage. And there was a point where I turned to you and I was just like, this is freaking awesome. Like, I am seeing Carnage on the big screen, done how I always wanted him to be done. I remember when the original Spider-Man trilogy came out, I had a toy of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and then I had a more comic accurate version of both Venom and Carnage. And I used to just play with those toys and be like, how amazing would this be if this was brought like on the big screen? And we got that tonight. And I definitely think that if you are going into this film wanting to see Carnage, be Cletus Cassidy from the comics, I think you will not walk away disappointed. I think that they deliver on the Carnage, and I think that I am really pumped to see where they take Carnage in the future.
And if you're going on a date with someone like Mateo and you think that he looks like raw meat and it's kind of gross, then prepare to go, ew, a little bit.
There were a lot of people that were worried about the PG-13 rating, and I totally understand it. I know that, you know, for people that were fans of Wolverine, to get the movie Logan was just crazy to actually like to witness that character be in his truest, like who he is. But I do think that the kills in this movie are pretty brutal. I think that they really don't hold back that much, apart from just not including blood. But there's a couple of kills that Carnage does where both you and me were like, ooh, like.
Yeah, there were a number of times when I was like.
There are a lot of kills that happen off camera, but at the same time, they leave very little to the imagination. So
and they're done well. Like, and the shock factor, like there's one particular where it's like, I feel like you kind of are still going, I wonder what he's about to do. And then he kills somebody and you're just like, oh.
Tom Hardy is great in this movie. He was great in part 1, and it's really cool to watch him behind the scenes to talk about like how much he loves these films, how much he loves the actual character. What was your biggest takeaway from the movie, and how do you think that the general crowd will respond?
Carnage looks like raw meat.
He's the meat man.
He's the meat man. Yeah, he looks like raw flesh, and it creeps me out a little bit. And
when he runs, it's just like.
The Foley artists really do go hard, man. They're so slimy and disgusting, and they lick things, and they are like, "Oh, what is the sound of a lick? You know, what's that like?" And it's not like, it's not great. It was still well done. Like, I enjoyed the action. I really did enjoy the plot. There was a lot of moments where I was like, "What are they gonna do next?" You know, like, and I think so. It was compelling. I enjoyed it. I would even watch it again. Don't get me wrong. I feel like I'm overcompensating for those other people out there who are like, oh my gosh, this is so good, and I'm just kind of here like, but was it? But I don't want anyone to think that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I'm really glad that we went to go see it.
And me speaking for the comic book fan that has been waiting for this for years and years and years, I think it's a step in the right direction. I think that you can never really truly do Carnage without Spider-Man, and I totally understand that. But I was watching this movie, and I think there are multiple things that like will like be uploaded as clips on YouTube, and I feel like as time goes on, I feel like a ton of people will like go back and like watch like that clip. Like they'll go back and watch like that scene where Cletus turns into Carnage and breaks out of the prison. I feel like people will go back and watch that scene in the church, right? I feel like people will be like, man, like, do you remember like when they made that Carnage film? Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man to a much lesser degree. Although one thing I want to point out about the score, about the music score of this film, it sounded very much like the original Spider-Man trilogy, from the piano to the trumpets. It was very reminiscent of those movies' scores, and I wonder if that was intentional. But yes, but to conclude my point, I do not think that you will be disappointed as long as you go in being like, this is a continuation of the 2018 one. And so depending on how you felt about the 2018 one, this is an extension and an improvement of that film, but it is a continuation of that film. It is that same universe, that same tone, that same camp. So we just recently uploaded our movie rating system here on this channel. So we're going to use terms and phrases to rate our films that stand in place of like really bad, bad, meh, good, really good, and the best of the best. So you can go back and watch that video right here. Where would you rate this film on our movie rating system?
I would rate it as a solid date night movie. It's definitely better than like just a meh kind of a movie. But I definitely am not about to go out of my way to like buy it and buy merch for it, and really it hasn't moved me into that sort of like fandom of this movie. I'm just I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. Happy to see it. Would recommend to a friend who was like, hey, what should I go watch?
Whenever we got in the car, I told you it was a very high date night. And then the more that we talked about it, I think I actually like talked myself or just me kind of like talking out my thoughts on the film made me like it that much more. And because of that, I would have to rate this movie as a collector's edition, because I do like I want to own this movie. I want to go back and watch it again and again.
Well, I feel like you already have a lot of Venom stuff and Carnage socks.
I got my Carnage socks on for this movie because socks on the meat man.
No. I just seriously, he looks like some weird human thing that was skinned alive. It's gross. Like, can't be the only one who thinks that Venom, or not Venom. Venom looks alright. He just looks like a living ball of slime. But Carnage looks like filleted meat. It's gross.
But guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and let us know if you want us to do a spoiler talk in the next week, 2 weeks. We do want to give people time to watch that post-credit scene, which is worth buying a ticket to this film just to see the post-credit scene, and that is all that I will say on that. But it was really cool. Whenever we were in there, this was the first film that we have seen post-COVID with a crowd as packed as it was tonight.
Yeah.
Which is really cool, and it did feel as if it was a return back to the way that the world used to be. And then when that post-credit scene came on, the house went crazy.
Yeah.
It was really awesome to just
you
be
could tell
in that room.
That people were super stoked.
Really hype. But that's all that we'll say. Don't want to give anything else away because I want you guys to experience it as blindly as you possibly can, because that's the best way to experience all films. I can't wait for Venom Part 3, Maximum Meat Man. He's packing more meat.
No.
All right, guys. Till next time. Hasta la vista.